That would be pretty cool. All right. I think it's recording. So definitely take notes and leave your questions. Like if you have specific questions for me that you want me to cover, just leave those till the very end because there will be time for that. Let me make sure as people come on that everybody's muted. I thought I put that in settings, but this is so new to me. But yeah, basically, I'm 19 years old. I'm a second year dietetics major at UF, which is basically like pre-med. It's a pretty heavy workload. But with that, I've been able to pick up some skills and tricks. I've always been super crazy hardworking, especially in high school. There was a point where I had 4 jobs at one time. They were all part-time and they were only happening on the weekends. But I did it. I had dance classes that I'd take 3 nights a week, but I'd also be doing community college full time. And that was really, really hard. So I learned at a very young age how to manage my time properly so that I could get everything done that I wanted to in a day. Not saying that I was super happy about it. I was honestly very stressed out and I had no social life. So I knew that coming to college, I wanted to change that and make sure that I did. So I'll just give you a little bit of a background as to what I'm doing now. I do take college classes full time, but on top of that, I have 3 jobs right now. I only had 2 until this semester. So I'll just give you a little bit of an overview because when people think when I say I have 3 jobs, they think I have like 3 full-time jobs somehow. That adds up to like a 40, 50, 60-hour work week. That is probably unattainable if you're going to university full-time. So one of my tasks or my jobs, I guess, would be social media marketing. I do a lot of stuff on Instagram because I'm partnered with a nutrition company. So I do stuff with them a lot. I help people with their health and fitness goals, and I'm able to earn money off of doing that, which I love because that's my passion. So I'm really happy I'm able to do that. But I also am the campus manager of a custom apparel company at UF. So I have 2 jobs that are definitely jobs because they're hard work, but I get to make my own hours. I get to make my own schedule, which is really, really nice. And then I just got hired as a personal trainer at my school's gym. So I have 1 job right now that I clock in and clock out of. And so total, it ends up adding up a lot. And it can be hard to manage if you don't know the right way to go about it. On top of that, I need a certain amount of volunteer hours, so I'm volunteering sometimes. Trying to have a social life, it does work most of the time, which is nice. I don't usually have to like skip out or say no to things, and that's what I really personally like about having a job where I don't have to clock in and clock out all the time. And even with personal training, I get to make my own schedule. So if you can find ways to make money doing something like that, and still feel fulfilled, like that's really amazing to me. Tip number 1, list your priorities. List them out of things that you know you have to get done and you have an obligation to get done. So that can be schoolwork, that can be your job. You have an obligation, you can't skip your job. Those are going to be the top 2 things for most people. Make sure that those are at the top of your list and keep them there. And everything else goes down from that. And even if like relaxing, like having me time is a priority to you, still list that. List any extracurricular activities, any hobbies that you love to do. Just make the list, make a huge list, and then rank them from most important to least important. That really helps just sort it out in your head. Like if you have multiple things coming up and you know what you have to get done first before you move on to the next thing. Number 2, don't procrastinate. And you will hear people say that to you all the time. I'm sure you've heard that through middle school, through high school, into your work and career life. If you procrastinate, you're going to have a hard time. And I hear a lot of people that say, oh, I work better under pressure. It's not a good flow. It's just not a good workflow. I never procrastinate, which seems really shocking, but when you're on top of your game and you've done it for so long, it becomes easy. If any of you have looked into my account, you'll see that I made a video about, I think it was, God, like my third video that I made. You don't have to scroll down too far, but it was about this website called howtostudyincollege.com. You can use it in high school too. If you go to school in general, that's where it's going to be most applicable, not necessarily to a work, just someone who purely goes to a full-time job. But you can actually plan out your schedule and your classes. You type in what assignments are due, when they're due, when you need to complete them, and it'll show you how much time you have to complete each task. So if you're going to do something and you're going to take away something from this, go to howtostudyincollege.com. It's also known as Shovel, Shovel. Just write that down. Make sure you go check it out. I'm not sponsored by them or anything. I hold no purpose to them, but it has helped me a lot to organize my week. And that's kind of moving me on to my next tip is I plan every single week, starting with Sunday, I plan it out in advance. I sit down on Sunday. I have it only takes me like a half hour to an hour to do. I will sit down and plan every single thing I have to do. Now I already put my classes into Shovel, so that's already there. And then I plan, okay, what assignments are due on what days? And then I get those done 2 to 3 days before they're due. Most people don't do that, but I'm telling you, if you can get in the habit of working ahead, you're going to have such a better time. You're going to be so much less stressed out, especially when it's a bigger project or something that's just going to take you more time. Spacing it out and doing maybe half hour a day of it, or if it's a huge essay, doing a paragraph a day. I've been doing that for a really long time, and it's really helped me to not freak out or wait till the last second and be cramming, and then you don't get as good of a grade because it's a sucky paper, stuff like that. And I've seen that happen a lot with people. Yeah, so let's see. That's a big thing for me. Just plan your week out in advance. I actually knew that this week in particular was going to be extra busy for me because I have my summer body challenge coming up, and I need to message a bunch of people about that. I have a launch party tomorrow. I had this I wanted to plan. Just make sure you do that, and just make it a habit. Even set an alarm in your phone to do it on a Sunday night. I do it Sundays because that's rest day. So that works for me. Tip number 4, stop doing things that don't serve you, whether it's physically, mentally, spiritually. If there's anything in your life that maybe it's a bad habit or something that you think is relaxing but isn't really doing any good for you or your life, you need to cut it out. Because those things can take up a lot of time that you could be using for something else. I'll give a few examples. Drinking a lot on the weekends, partying on the weekends. I know some of you are really young, so you have a ways away before you actually start partaking in those activities. But personally, I have never drank alcohol, smoked marijuana, or vaped, or done anything like that, just basically for my overall general health, because I know those things are bad for you, but also because I know that I wouldn't be as productive of a person if I did those things. Another thing is binge watching Netflix. Don't do that. I know a lot of people say it's relaxing, obviously, and don't get me wrong, I watch Netflix, I watch Hulu, I watch YouTube, but I do them in the pockets of my day where I'm eating. I love to sit down, relax, take 30 minutes to eat my food, enjoy my food while watching Hulu or something. And that's a great time to do it. Set apart me time to do that, but don't let it take up half of your day. Then it just gets out of hand, and then what are you really doing? Yeah, and TikTok. I mean, you can spend so long on there. scrolling through. I remember like when I first got the app, and I was just sitting in bed at like 11 at night, and then the next thing I knew it was 1 in the morning, and I'm like, what am I doing on here? I need to go to bed. And I was tired. I was tired since 11. I could have gone to bed, but I didn't because I was so addicted to scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Just put it down for a little bit. It's honestly, it's so addicting. And that's how you're here. So, I mean, I guess it worked out for the best. But that's a big thing. Like, if you're taking your days, partying on the weekends and then having a hangover, you're not going to get anything done during a hangover. Yes, you can still go out. Yes, you can still have a social life. But if you're doing something that's destructive to your body and to your mental health, then it's no good. Tip number 5, find what you're passionate about and do that. A lot of people commented on my posts saying, oh, you must be miserable or you're gonna burn out. Like, that's how you burn out. Yeah, I know that's how you burn out because I've been in burnout before. But let me tell you, once you find an avenue, a job where you are passionate about what you're doing and you're happy and fulfilled and you feel fulfilled and you feel like you have a purpose doing what you're doing, you're not gonna burn out. I've been doing what I've been doing since I started college, and I haven't felt that. The only time I had burnout since I started college was when I was taking organic chemistry 1 and 2 in the same summer. And I hated it. I freaking hated it. I was doing that, and I had 2 volunteer positions as well on top of that, and it was a lot of work, but every single thing I was doing, I hated. Volunteering, not so much. I wasn't happy doing it. It was kind of a neutral thing. I didn't find any value in what I was doing. I knew I had to get it done, but that's when I burnt out. Not from what I'm doing now. I'm way busier now than I was that summer, but because I'm doing something that I love, it doesn't happen. So, big. Tip number 6. I have a lot of these, so I hope you're writing them down because there's a lot of information. This is so important. Develop a sleep schedule. If you don't have a set sleep schedule, because you do have a body clock. Your body, like once you get in a good sound schedule, you're tired at the same time every night and you're awake at the same time every morning, whether or not you have an alarm set. I started doing this and I noticed a huge difference just in my overall energy and mental clarity going throughout the day. I have the energy to get everything done that I need to get done because I got great sleep. That was a huge comment that I got on these videos of mine were, oh my God, you must not sleep. Obviously I sleep. That's how I'm able to do what I'm doing. If I didn't sleep, I'd be so miserable. But people think that's what it takes to be successful, and it's not. It's contradictory. You need sleep. 8 hours. 7 to 8 hours of sleep. I personally go to bed at 11 at night and wake up at 7 or midnight to 8. Either way, it's 8 hours and it's not varying too much. So it's good. And that especially comes into play once you get into college because I know some of you well, first of all, who's in high school and who's in college and who's working full time? Can you guys type in the chat box so I know who's coming from where, like as far as high school and college, because there's different things for different people. Okay, so like if you're in high school, what time in the morning do you have to wake up? Because I knew when I was waking up at like 5:30 in the morning to get to school for 7 because I had to do my makeup because I was insecure. That's a whole nother story. But yeah, okay, so it's a huge mix. But once you do make that shift from high school to college and you notice that you don't, oh my God, 4:30 to 5, 6:30, I don't miss that at all. But I wake up at like 7 or 8 now, but that 6:30 is too early, 5 is too early, 4:30, oh my God. But yeah, stay-at-home mom, awesome. It's just like once you get into college and you have classes at maybe 9:30 or 10:40. I have 10:40 a.m. classes Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So technically I could sleep in until like 9:30, but that's a lot of your morning that you waste. Even like a year ago, I had afternoon classes. I did not have to wake up if I didn't want to. And I started getting in that habit of waking up at like 11 in the morning. First of all, my mental clarity was gone. I felt groggy the whole day, which is not good. And I hated it because I was so much less productive. I got so much less done in the day because most of my morning is gone by the time I wake up, and it takes me a while to like, you got to scroll through your phone, you got to slowly get out of bed. And I just noticed that my productivity went completely down the drain. So obviously I changed that after I noticed, but that's a big deal. Oh my God, I have so much to talk about, but I don't want to keep you guys like on here past 8. What else? Okay, yeah, I'm on my last tip, and this is by far the most important tip I could possibly give you. Take care of yourself. Take care of your mental health and your physical health in all of its entirety. You just, please, for the love of God, eat healthy, go exercise. Even though you think you don't have time, you do have time. And if you don't, put that up towards the top of your priority list and make time. That is so, so important. Just having time to like cook healthy food and do stuff like that. I wanted to bring up something that I posted about a while ago, but it still remains true today. This was posted by Brendan Bouchard. I don't know if anybody knows who that is, but he is a very, very successful businessman, and he has written a book called High Performance Habits to make you a more successful, productive person. And in that book, he says, did you know the top 15% of high performers are 40% more likely to work out 5 times per week? And he says, Brendan specifically does these 3 things to have energy. He buys organic groceries and stocks his house with good food. He ensures that he gets the right amount of sleep every night, and he works out every other day. Most very successful, very productive people take care of themselves. You have to, because what happens when you're neglecting your health, trying to get stuff done, and then ultimately get sick? Then how much time do you have to take off? Even worse, God forbid, you really, really neglect your health over a prolonged period of time and end up in the hospital for something that you could have prevented if you took care of yourself in the beginning. I don't want to see that happen to anybody, but it does. And people have to take off sick days, miss work, get behind on their paychecks and their bills, and then it's just a mess. And so I want to be able to help people to not get to that point at all in general. That's like the biggest part. You need to prioritize your physical and mental health before anything. And that also becomes very important in general with, sorry, I totally lost my train of thought there. I don't know what I was going to say. I keep like reading the chat box and then I get distracted. But I'm sure it'll come to me. That was all I had as far as tips for tonight. Does anybody have any specific questions? Because I'm perfect. I'm on time. So we have 10 minutes for questions if anybody has anything in particular. But yeah, physical health, mental health. I think what I was going to say was make time for me time. Like, it's so important to also not burn out in the sense that you do need time to relax and don't. This is one of my biggest flaws personally, is when I do take time to relax, I think I'm a bum. I just get so like upset with myself thinking that I'm being lazy, when in reality, I need that time to decompress and to make sure that I'm prepared for whatever else I got going on for the rest of the week. The author, I'm gonna type his full name in the chat box. Actually, I have his book up here. Brendan, wow, I can't spell. High performance habits. Okay, can you talk about the time management box/chart? Are you talking about the one that was on my IGTV account, like with the 4 quadrants? Yeah, that's a big one, because people, like, if you haven't seen it, go check it out, because that was mind-blowing to me. Somebody presented that to me back in December, and I was just like, holy crap, that makes so much sense. There are 4 quadrants of your life and daily activities. There's important and urgent, which is like if something happens like very terrible to a loved one and you have to rush to the hospital, that's on, like, whatever's on your priority list, automatically that thing becomes the number one and you have to get it done immediately. Then there's the unimportant but urgent, which means like if somebody texts you, it's urgent, like it seems urgent because you got a notification on your phone and you are obligated, you feel obligated to text back right away, but it's not like completely important. Like you can text them back an hour, 2 hours, a day later, and most people do. I end up reading stuff and then forgetting and then going back to it, and I know a lot of people do that to me as well. And then there's the unimportant and also not urgent, which is like binge watching TV, Netflix, stuff like that. That's really not serving you, kind of like how I was talking about that before. And then there's the important but not urgent, meaning you need to do it and you should do it, but it's not urgent. You can do it whenever you want. And that's really where that separates like the top 3-4% of most successful people from the rest of the population. Those successful people do the important but not urgent tasks on hand, and everybody else doesn't because it's not urgent. Okay. Yes, I'm making time to come home this weekend to see my family. How do you keep your motivation? I do very well with health and productivity for weeks, and then eventually my motivation goes away and I stop and lose my routine. I struggle so much, and I want to create a healthy lifestyle that I keep for a very long time and that will serve me and my productivity. Yeah. Awesome. Motivation comes and goes. I like to use the saying that, I don't know if anybody knows who David Goggins is. My dad introduced me to this man. He's a ex-Navy SEAL. He's nuts. And he, wow, I got a notification. He says motivation is crap. Nothing happens. Like, motivation is just crap. It's intangible and it never really does anything for you. You can gain motivation by going to, like, by listening to me talk about this, you could gain motivation all of a sudden, but then a week later, it's gone. You really need to have an inner drive to do something. Like, unless you have drive, nothing's gonna happen. And you're gonna have those roller coasters where, like, high motivation, low motivation for your whole life. And I mean, I get to those points sometimes too, but when you are really, really passionate about what you're doing, or if you have something that you're going after to achieve that you're really passionate about, like if you know you want to graduate to have the career of your dreams, yeah, you don't have that right now, but having that and knowing you'll have that in the future if you continue to work hard can really help motivate you. So just having those desires and those goals, those long-term goals that you can like visually picture in your head, really helps with motivation. I hope that answered. Wow, someone else knows who David Goggins is. That's great. How do you prevent yourself from losing time, such as having an extra 20 to 30 minutes before class? Yeah, that was actually a tip that I was going to include. I think I just straight up forgot to put it in there, so I'm glad you mentioned it. I call those pockets of time where you have like 20 to 30 minutes like in limbo, where you're in between classes or on a bus home, because I mean, I live off campus and I don't have a decal, so I have to take the bus home, and you're just really not doing anything productive, but you could be. Those are called pockets, where you can always fill those pockets with different things. Oh, some people are. Okay. Yeah, you can you can always find ways to fill those pockets, whether it's with extra homework. Honestly, to fill those pockets of time, I look at on my calendar on my phone, I look, because I plan stuff hour by hour, I look and see where those pockets are and like how I can fill them. And then I'll actually write down what I should be doing at that time. Let's just say I have a lab class that's 3 hours long, but I get out an hour and a half early. The remainder of that hour and a half that I would be in the lab normally, I use to study. Something like that, something along those lines, whether it's for your job. That's why I like doing what I'm doing, like marketing and stuff like that, and reaching out to people that way. I use that time that I'm on the bus to reach out to people and to message people and to help them and see how I can serve them better, because to me that's very, very productive to pertaining to my major and my future career. The audiobook was David Goggins. His audiobook, for the younger crowd, I mean, he's very profane, he swears a lot, but for the older crowd, I definitely recommend listening to it. It's called, I'm going to type it in the chat box, by David Goggins. Can't Hurt Me. It's a 13-hour audiobook on Audible, but oh my gosh, it is, let's just say, that'll get you motivated for life. It's really crazy. But does anybody else have any questions? We have 2 minutes. I'm super excited. Maybe I can do another one of these because I know there are a lot of people that couldn't make it that wanted to. But okay, are you the type of person that needs me time? I need me time. I do. I really need it. I am, and I say to myself that I'll have 15 minutes of me time after school on my phone and find myself procrastinating for 3 hours. I don't know how to prevent myself from doing that. I feel like you could find more productive ways to have me time, like meditating. I know I don't meditate, but I should. Maybe like stretching, if you exercise, like just stretching out for 5 minutes, 15 minutes, reading a really good book, like a personal development book, doing something self-care related during your me time, instead of just like sitting on your phone aimlessly. Yeah, you can do that every once in a while, but really, just like TikTok, you'll think you'll be on there for 15 minutes and then it really does turn into 3 hours and there's no stopping point. That's why I don't really like scrolling through social media during me time, because there's no end point to the scroll. You will literally scroll forever and ever. So there's really no like moment in your brain where you're like, oh, I have to stop now. That's the end. There's no end. So that's why I fill it up with more self-care stuff instead of social media. How are you able to choose your major? Okay. I wasn't always super into health and fitness. My parents got into health and fitness about 5 or 6 years ago when my dad's cousin was diagnosed with stage 3 lung cancer, and we saw what he went through, and my parents decided that they don't want to ever see themselves go through that, and they started really stocking the house with organic food, really healthy food, and I noticed it changed them, and I noticed it changed me too, even at a very young age. So I started getting really, really interested in that and how I can help people through nutrition. So I knew that I wanted to be a registered dietitian, but I'm also very entrepreneurial as well. Like I love doing things like this where I can serve people face to face, helping people with their weight, their muscle mass, like stuff like that. Like that's so fun to me to see people transform. And that's just that's what makes me happy and makes me feel like I have a purpose on this earth. So that's what I chose to do. Okay. I think I'm going to end it there. If anybody has any personal questions that they need to DM me, you can totally DM me and I'll like take a voice memo or something if it's a lot to talk about. But I hope you guys gained value from this. Have an amazing night. Get your stuff done, but go to bed at a reasonable hour and follow my steps. And I will see you later.